Hello everyone. After the fall of Rome, Europe entered a time of kings, monks, plagues, cathedrals, and extraordinary literature. Welcome to the medieval period. In this lesson, I'll talk about the medieval period and its time frame. I'll explain the term medieval, and we'll get to know the meaning of circa or ca, which you see it before dates. I'll mention some of the important historical events that happened during the medieval period. We'll have a distinction between Old English and Middle English. I'll mention the key characteristics of this period. We'll talk about the authors and their literary works. We'll get to see the language and the literary devices used during that period. And we'll have a very quick view of art in the medieval period. By the end of the video, we'll talk about its importance and impact as a literary period. So to start, ask this question: what does medieval mean? What comes to our mind when we say the medieval period? Let's get to know this. Medieval comes from the Latin words medium and avium. So I'm not sure of the pronunciation of these two Latin words, medium avium, which simply mean the Middle Ages. So medieval, it's not something evil or bad, it's simply the combination of two Latin words, medium and avium. So we have the word medieval, and the meaning is simply the Middle Ages. So why do we call it the Middle Ages anyway? It's called medieval because it's seen as the middle period between the classical world of Greece and Rome. If you remember, we talked about them in the previous video, and the modern world that begins with the Renaissance. So medieval simply means the Middle Ages. And we have now circa. You see this used a lot in the classical period and also in the medieval period because it means around or approximately. Because we don't know the exact date of certain events or certain literary works when they were published or when they were acted. So circa 1400, for example, when you see this CA, the pronunciation or how you read this term is circa 1400 or circa 1210. You will see it used heavily in the medieval and in the classical period because we don't know the exact date of a certain event or a literary work. So simply it means around, approximately. The historical background, it's a very long period and it had a lot of important events, but I'll try to mention just a few of the events that are significant and related to English literature. So we start with the fall of Rome in 476 CE. This is an important date because it's considered the beginning of the medieval period. This period also witnessed the spread of Christianity across Europe. It witnessed many wars like the Viking raids, the Norman conquest of England, and the Crusades. Also, Europe witnessed Black Death in the mid of the 14th century, which took a lot of lives. Now, we come to Old English and Middle English. Both can be considered the medieval period. We start with Old English, circa 450 until 1066 CE. Also called Anglo-Saxon. So Anglo-Saxon English or Old English, they are the same. They are heavily, or it is heavily Germanic. After Old English, we have Middle English, which starts circa 1066 till 1500 CE. It evolved after the Norman conquest of England and it's blended with French. So both Old English and Middle English are in the medieval period. And the key characteristics that we find in literature in the medieval period, we see ornate, descriptive, and allusive style. Uh, as far as the themes are concerned, we see themes similar to the classical period like faith, destiny, but we see some other new topics or subjects like kings, saints, more related to religions and wars. As far as forms are and genres are concerned, we see epic poetry and religious allegory and other types. So, the medieval literature highlights. Uh, I think you have heard of Beowulf, most probably. It's the most famous epic poem in Old English literature. It's written in Old English by an anonymous Anglo-Saxon poet, and many scholars consider it to be the oldest English text ever written. So, we have also Geoffrey Chaucer. Geoffrey Chaucer, he is known as the father of English literature. If somebody asks us who is the father of English literature, most probably we would say like Shakespeare, but no, the father of English literature is Geoffrey Chaucer. And if we were to choose one person to represent the medieval period, it would be definitely Geoffrey Chaucer. So he wrote in Middle English, and his masterpiece was the Canterbury Tales. And in addition to Geoffrey Chaucer, we have many morality plays and allegorical plays like Everyman and many other plays. And most of them, if not all, were anonymous. So we don't know the real author, or we are not sure of the author. The literary devices used during the medieval period, uh, of course, as we mentioned before, mostly Old English and Middle English were used, and we see allegory and personification used heavily. Allegorical means to give a concept, a role in the play, for example, like to say, I am generosity and I am a character. So this is to give a concept, a role. And personification, which is the attribution of human qualities to non-human objects or animals. Visuals and artwork. When we talk about the medieval period, what comes to my mind, Gothic cathedrals and castles, swords and weapons, of course old weapons. So it's a very wide issue. If you are interested in, you can check the works and the visuals in the medieval. And of course, the medieval period is a very important part and period of English literature, because it was like the bridge between the Greek and Roman literature and the new ones, or the English one, because it kept forms like the epic and the allegorical drama running, and it blended Christian theology with storytelling, and it was also part of many stories, legendary stories. And the last thing I want to mention in this lesson is the importance of the medieval literature. Once again, I want to stress some points. Medieval doesn't mean primitive or evil, but in fact, medieval literature was rich, complex, and deeply influential, from epic poetry to religious allegory. It laid the groundwork for many of the literary forms and themes that we see in later periods. So medieval literature is really rich and really interesting, and I think we came to the end of this lesson. I hope that it was useful.